Hello, my name is Maciek Kłopecki and I am a student of the elementary school number 358 in Warsaw. You are about to see my presentation on how we can help the environment that I made for the Open Your Mind competition. Mass commercial fishing. The problem. The main problem with it is the method of catching fish, which is called bottom trawling, which is a very harmful method to the environment. That is catching fish by dragging an enormous net on the bottom of the ocean, catching as much fish as possible. One of the side effects of bottom trawling is by catching turtles, dolphins and other sea animals and destroying the seafloor plants like coral reefs too. Catching too many fish also harms the environment by breaking down the ecological cycle. So what are the solutions to these problems? The ultimate solution to this problem would be simply stop eating fish. Nowadays it's full of metals, microplastic and other harmful substances anyway. But something like this doesn't happen overnight. It would take generations for mankind to ditch the tuna sandwich or sushi. Therefore, we need to change the ways of commercial fishing and balance the amount of fish being commercially caught for consumption. The government should set quotas on how much fishing can be legally permitted. Then, of course, the fishery industry and the supply chain must comply with these rules. Air pollution. What problems are we facing? Almost every day we generate mass amounts of carbon and other greenhouse gases by, for example, riding our cars, heating houses, or using electricity at home. All that requires tons of fossil fuels to be burned. Not everyone knows that livestock generates 18% of total greenhouse gas emissions as measured in CO2 equivalents, more than the entire transport sector, automobiles, trains, ships and planes. Carbon, daily produced by ourselves, is sometimes called a carbon footprint. Carbon gets either stuck in the air and mixes with oxygen, or it goes all the way up to the ozone layer, which is like a blanket around Earth that protects it from the harmful rays of the sun and starts slowly destroying it, making way for dangerous ultraviolet rays to pass through. So how can we deal with these problems? Let's start with encouraging people to invest in ecologically friendly vehicles. We should use naturally generated and renewable sources of energy, like water, wind, hydropower, or the sun. If you can, reduce meat and dairy products in your diet. You will save the animals and the ozone layer too. There's even more problems. Let's look at water pollution. It is very common for factories and large companies to discharge chemical waste to rivers or other water bodies. It causes a lot of sea life, for example common fish, dolphins or even sharks, to die and even be on the brink of extinction. Most of the plastic waste people generate in their households ends up in the ocean and causes fish and marine mammals to die. Also, the fishery industry contributes to that, as fishing nets are all made of plastic and are the most deadly trap for sea mammals. So what can we do? Discovered companies or citizens discharging chemical waste into water bodies should be heavily taxed and fined, with more serious situations even leading to a court case. Even in our everyday life, we should remember this problem when using anything plastic and usable only once, to try and limit it. Even one person can save tens or hundreds of animal lives. We also face habitat destruction and extinction of several species. One example of an endangered species is the lowland gorilla, which has almost disappeared as a result of the destruction of its forest habitat. Another example is the elephant population, which is declining worldwide because of human exploitation of their natural environment and poaching. So how can we stop this? The governments should crack down on poaching wild and endangered species. They should also invest more in protecting them and their habitats. There are many charity organizations and trusts supporting wildlife. Anyone can contribute by donating or doing a volunteer work. The conclusion. Probably a key factor, if not the key factor, in solving our environmental problem is time. Can we, as a world community, act soon enough to head off environmental trends that could be difficult, if not impossible to reverse? For example, rising carbon dioxide emissions leading to rising temperatures, melting glaciers, rising sea levels, and changing climate patterns throughout the world? Every individual should right at this moment start putting an effort to protect our planet. We have so many means to do it. Take your own reusable bag when picking up groceries. Don't buy water in plastic bottles, drink tap water instead. Don't drive if you don't have to. Take the bicycle or walk. Invest in solar panels on your roof. Segregate your waste properly. Educate your neighbour who's burning trash in his old furnace. And ultimately, do you really have to eat so much meat? I can see the world is changing in positive ways. Scientists develop and use energy-efficient and ecological methods to improve our environment. They are becoming widely available commercially to consumers. Electric cars, solar panels, wind turbines, but still lots need to be done. According to my research, I came up to a conclusion that in order to eliminate still existing environmental problems, we should get rid of the greed among large international companies that produce pollution. Some companies think very short-termed and care only about their own profit. Greed leads to many different ways to maximize profit and neglect environmental responsibility. We should express our concerns loudly, so we can be heard by governments and those who can influence these dirty corporations, and I hope they will eventually go extinct or change their ways. Thank you for your kind attention and help us save the environment.